So from 5, I've got blood up to my elbows. And then being a classic Scottish Presbyterian, military man as he was, he said to me, "What job are you going to get when you're 12? And I thought, well, what does he mean when I'm 12? And he expected me to get a job. Very natural for me to get my job in a butcher shop.
You must get asked a version of this question all the time, so I'm almost apologetic for asking, but I'm just so intrigued when what you do now, being one of the world's leading forensic scientists, when you think back to your childhood, you know, like the ideas that were in the air, but your experiences, the family that was swirling around you, can you like draw a line between what you do now and then? Can you see like the beginnings, the embers there in your childhood?
So it was Steve Jobs who said, it's wonderful when you get to a certain age and you have that confidence and space to stop, turn around and look behind you, and you can see a long path behind you because there's more behind you than there is in front of you.
Sure.
And as you can look along that pathway, you can see the crossroads where you made a decision. And that only comes with time. And so I can go right back to being a little girl on the West Coast with my father. My maiden name was Gunn. My father was a great shot, just the way it goes, just the way it goes. And because I adored my father, absolutely adored him, any opportunity I had to be with him, I spent with him. And so when he would go out shooting, and it was only ever for the pot, it was never for sport, then I would go with him. Okay. So from the age of about 5, I was carrying home dead rabbits and dead pheasants and such things. My mother was a bit squeamish. And so I got to spend more time with my dad sitting at the back door, and he would teach me how to skin a rabbit or how to pluck a pheasant, or a really great Scottish term, how to grill a deer, how to take the innards out. So from 5, I've got blood up to my elbows. And then being a classic Scottish Presbyterian, military man as he was, he said to me, "What job are you going to get when you're 12? And I thought, well, what does he mean when I'm 12? And he expected me to get a job.
Wow.
Because the premise of it was that you're not on this earth to have fun. You're here to work and to make it a better place. And if you're going to work, you will give half your earnings to your mother for your board and lodging, which is what I did. And so it was very natural for me to get my job in a butcher shop.
Yeah.
And so I went from plucking pheasants at the back door to the butcher shop, spent my entire teenage years with muscle and bone and blood. And you know you're not going to be squeamish when the thing you look forward to is the van coming up from the abattoir on the day that it's carrying livers, because livers have to be fresh. And in a butcher shop, your hands are always cold, so you can put your hands into the box of livers and warm them up. That's how you know you're never going to be squeamish.
That's a sign of things to come.
It is.
Surely.
And then my biology teacher at school said, "You're going to university," which I didn't know I could. And I spent the first 2 years not really knowing why I was there, because the subjects just didn't interest me at all. Genetics didn't do it for me. Soil science didn't do it for me. Zoology definitely didn't do it for me. And when it came to the end of my second year, you had to specialize for your third year. And the only things I was any good at was botany. And I didn't want to be with plants for the rest of my life. I really didn't. And the man that I spoke to, the academic, was the most boring man on the planet, so he put me off. And I went to the anatomist, and they told me that for my third year, I would go into the dissecting room, I'd be given a body, and I would dissect that body from the top of the head to the bottom of the toes. And I thought, it's the butcher shop. It's a different animal, but it's the same principle.
It's familiar.
So that was why I went into anatomy. I knew that I wasn't going to be someone who looked down a microscope. I knew I wasn't going to be someone who was interested in genetics. And so when the first case came along, I thought, well, we'll have a go at that and see what happens.
There
and that's it. So that's the line that I would never have seen when I was first in university. But of course, now I can see why those are the choices made.
Yeah.
What was that first experience of entering the dissection room like? And are the tales of people throwing up and that kind of thing that you hear about sort of true?
So we had no preparation. So it was very much drop you in and off you go. Here's your dissecting kit. Here's your book. Off you go. And there were 4 of us to a body, 2 on each side. And when you walked into the dissecting room, it was like a really old-fashioned conservatory. So it had beautiful parquet flooring. It had opaque glass windows up the side and glass roof. So it was baking hot in the summer and freezing cold in the winter. But when you walked in, there were about 50 tables spread out evenly along the room, and each one was covered by a white sheet. And so you could see the mound underneath the white sheet, and you think, oh, okay, there's a lot of bodies under there. And then you take the white cover off, and you're faced, because I was only 18, you're faced with the first time you've ever seen a dead body. And you think, no, that's okay. That doesn't really look real because of the embalming process. So there's a bit of a detachment. And then you have to try and get the scalpel blade onto the scalpel handle, and your hand's shaking a wee bit. And it's that first cut that you make into human skin, when suddenly you peel back the skin and you think, how's this going to take me a year? And you peel it back and you see what's underneath, and you think, a year's not long enough.
Sure.
And by that point, you've crossed a Rubicon. You're no longer afraid to be there. You're totally immersed in why you're there. And I found that for me as if I'd come home. I knew I'd come home. I belonged in a dissecting room, which is ultimately where I'll end up.
Wow.